I've got Jesse Schuman on here with me. I met Jesse at church just 7 years ago.
8 years ago.
7, 8 years ago. He's one of the only fun guys at the church back then. Just kidding. We had a great time. So tell them. I don't know. What do you want to tell them today?
I don't know. Well, I thought you were going to interview me. So
Okay, I'm going to interview you. So you're about to start a new job at a church, so I have to be very careful of what kind of questions. Not too many sexual questions, but you are faithfully married.
Yep. However, the job is out of state, so the questions could tip the line, you know?
So do you drink alcohol?
That's another yes and no question. So I'm going back and forth. I used to a lot, so then I didn't at all. And now it's like an every once in a while thing.
Was the first 5 years you didn't drink alcohol that I knew you?
Yeah, for 6 years. So when I first became a Christian, I stopped drinking alcohol for 6 years, and it wasn't ever like I think alcohol is evil or looking down on anyone else who did drink. I mean, I was still friends with you, so obviously. It was more just I knew for me, alcohol was just a vice that I couldn't control. And so that really opened my eyes up to I have a very addictive personality. So then once I got married, I was like, okay, I want to celebrate. It's been 6 years. So me and my wife, we'd have drinks every once in a while. Again.
What was the first thing you drank after 30 years of drinking?
Was...
let me guess, Bud Light.
No. Nope. Nope, because I got married to a woman. So, but that's... first thing I drank was, I believe it was a Yingling.
That was the first drink back after 6 years.
First beer. Yeah.
What did she have?
I don't know, because it was separate. It was at my bachelor party. We're sitting out at like a little bonfire. And I went to the bar, grabbed a beer. I had a Yingling and a Blue Moon. I think the Yingling was first, but I'm a beer guy, you know, so I wanted that.
Okay.
I eased myself back.
If you're going to drink now, what do you drink?
I'm going to drink now. I mean, if it's beer, it's an IPA. I'm definitely a hipster when it comes to that. I like something that's got a good taste to it.
They're disgusting.
If it's not beer, it's some sort of whiskey, and I usually call you and ask for your recommendation.
Okay, well, that's valid. That is true.
Can't remember any of the names, but I know they're definitely more expensive than what I would usually buy.
So just tell or to show the audience how little you care about alcohol. You won a dodgeball tournament a month ago.
Ooh.
I had the rights at Pappy Van Winkle.
Yes.
And you turned it down.
Well, in my defense, you called me and said, hey, do you want to be a part of a dodgeball tournament? I said yes. Knew none of the rules or what was on the line. I just showed up expecting to hit some people in the face with some balls. And I did. We won the championship. And then after I found out Pappy Van Winkle bottle was on the line. And I still don't know who he is. Apparently he'll work here. I'm being a bunch of nerds for some liquors.
What did you tell me last night that like 6 guys asked you for that bottle?
Yeah. I posted a picture on like Instagram stories just saying like, hey, we won the dodgeball tournament. Like 6 or 7 people reached out like, what are you going to do with the bottle? And I was like, I don't know. I gave it back to Drew. I came for dodgeball. All right.
Carter's over here like, are you kidding me? I would have taken that bottle in a second.
People reached out to me with death threats saying that that's their lifetime achievement to get that bottle in. Whatever. So
that's hilarious.
That's where drinking is in my life right now. It's like, yeah, that's how little I care about it. But
dope. All right, so where are you moving?
Moving to Augusta, Georgia. Now, I know most people when they think Augusta, Georgia, think the master's course. It's not quite like that. Augusta's nice. Don't get me wrong. It's just not what you picture.
Are you close enough so you're gonna rent out your house?
Definitely, dude. You can make so much money renting your house for the masters. Probably going to regret this because eventually we're going to move and everyone's going to saturate the market. But if you can get an investment property in Augusta, you can rent out a nice house. Not like great. Like our house isn't awesome. 1,900 square feet, 3-bed, 3-bath, something around that. Rent out for like $1,000 a night the week leading up to the Masters. Like crazy.
Oh, for a whole week.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, it had to depend on how long.
Are there hotels in Augusta?
There are, but like people want houses nowadays, Airbnbs and stuff like that, and you can just charge more. But from what I've heard, and again, I'll get on the podcast next year and I'll tell you how I'm completely wrong on all of this. But from what I've heard, it's like this stuff books up like months in advance. Like there's no hotels leading up to like in the surrounding area for like 2 months. Like it's just booked out. So the week leading up to the Masters is going to be my vacation week from now on for as long as I live there. Just rent out the house, go on vacation.
Love it. That's awesome. So we talk about business a lot of times when we're on here. Yep. You grew up in a family business.
Yep.
So I'm taking over my father's business, a family business. tell me what you've seen. What are you, any ideas, any tricks, anything that your dad still does, or?
I don't know that there's like tips and tricks for the business, but I will say growing up, being a part of a small business, there's just so much value that you can carry over into any industry. I mean, I've been in retail management, sales, insurance, and now working at a church. And the things that I learned growing up working in the restaurant industry, like, and not even just the restaurant industry, seeing the level of commitment that, your parents have when it's their name on the store. I mean, that transcends all of it. So like, I was joking with you yesterday, but I mean, I grew up going down to my dad's store and sweeping the parking lot, cleaning bathrooms. Like, and as a kid, I loved it.
What business is he in?
He owns a crab house in Baltimore, Captain Dan's Crab House. Shout out. If anyone's up in the Baltimore area, hit it up. He also ships nationally. I was going to say internationally. I think it's just, but yeah, he ships crabs, crab cakes. So you ever want to do a crab feast here?
Oh, dude, I love crab.
But yeah, I mean, you just, you grow up going to help your dad at work, and it's like the coolest thing ever. And then,
but your dad died today. Who gets the business? What happens to the business?
Hopefully we would just sell it. No, I wouldn't. I love my dad, love what he's built, but I just know for my life now, I'm just called to different things. We're moving to Augusta to be closer to my wife's family. She has some health issues, and so being close to people that she knows and is comfortable with. So even if I really wanted to, I just know it wouldn't be the right.
Would your mom run it?
No, and I don't know. I got 4 sisters. I don't know that any of them would really want to. Maybe my youngest, she still works there with my dad right now. But I don't know. I don't know that she would want to. And my dad's at an age and at a place in life where he still loves showing up to work every day. So yeah, we'll see.
So, my sister actually came with an idea and it was genius. So she vets people in interviews by setting interviews at like 6:15 in the morning.
Yeah.
And smart. Dude, if they show up, they don't know it, but they already got the job. They just showed at a 6:15 interview.
So your sister wouldn't hire you, is what you're saying?
She would 100% not hire me. Yes.
Show up at 10:15.
I think I said this on last podcast, but maybe I didn't. Somebody said something to me one time. They're like, "Have you ever fired somebody for showing up early?" And I was like, "I mean, no." It was like, "Have you ever fired somebody for showing up late?" I was like, "I guess actually I have." And then he's like, "Have you ever fired them for staying late?" No. I was like, "No." And so it was like this mindset of like, how do you treat your employees?
Yeah.
Did your dad have a hard time getting employees or keeping employees? Or
yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is very true in any industry right now. Is there's certain things that you look for in a good employee. I think from what I've heard from him in a small business sense right now is it's hard to find people. And so he's hiring people if they fill out the application, right? If they show up for the interview, kind of like your sister, if they show up at 6:15, I don't think he's doing interviews at 6:15, but most of his employees are, high school employees, people looking for summer jobs or people in community college who are staying around the area, just want to make some money. He has a couple managers, but a lot of his business is very seasonal. Like crabs is very much when it's hot out, you're going to do that. He's not selling the same way throughout the winter. So I think he looks for a different type of person, but I'm sure you face this here just owning a small business too, is it's just hard to find people who want jobs. It's hard to find people who want to work. So if they show a little bit of initiative, that goes a long way.
Yeah, 100%. Now, Baltimore, is that on the water?
It's right. Yeah, it's right on the Inner Harbor. It's all right. We'll do a geography lesson after this.
Is it a beach?
So it's not a beach. It's like 3 hours from the beach. Ocean City, Maryland. That's the ocean side. But the Chesapeake Bay is massive. Like it starts in Virginia and goes all the way up to the Inner Harbor in Baltimore. It goes up like past that. So Baltimore City is actually like beautiful. Like it's right on the water. So it kind of goes like around like that, and different parts of the city have a different view, but there's like huge boats, yachts that pull in there. Like it's awesome.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never been there before.
It's really cool. And then like, growing up, you get to go to Orioles games, Ravens games, and it's all right.
Yeah, I remember you being a Ravens.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, of course I'm a Ravens fan. What am I going to root for the Panthers?
Valid point. Man, pretty interesting. I had a breakfast like a month ago with a senator, and he said that it was about trying to get weed legalized in South Carolina.
Well, you're the guy.
I'm trying very hard. And he thinks the Panthers are going to be moving to Germany.
To Germany.
in 2 years.
That would be crazy.
Yeah, because he would have like 40 million fans. Temper, and he has a soccer team. And so they think that this is what this guy told me. So Germany for the Panthers, and then Jacksonville Jaguars to some other European company.
England. They have the most games played internationally in England every year. So last time, like I go often, I went to London a few years ago when the Ravens were playing the Jags.
Oh, dope.
It was like a home game for them. So it was a rough. Yeah, it was a rough trip. It was the worst loss in Ravens history. So I'm a little bit of bad luck, I guess, for international games for the Ravens. But it was crazy. It was so many fans over there. So, I mean, moving a team internationally, like that's a crazy concept versus just moving.
I think it's going to be 4 teams.
Yeah.
I don't know what 2 teams on the Midwest or West Coast is going to be.
I mean, Jacksonville's a market that makes sense. Carolina, that's kind of, it's strange just knowing how much Charlotte's growing. There's not a lot of hometown fans.
He doesn't own the building either.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a huge part of this. Yeah. Man, I just had a good question for you and I forgot. Something about 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So you sold your house, right?
Yep. Sold and then bought one down there.
What did you end up buying the whole house and paying for it unless you could, or what do you?
We ended up putting like 40% down. So a lot of the reason for that was we, with us having one job right now, again, Rach has some health issues, so she's not able to work as much. She does photography, but she's not able to do as much. And then with me being a pastor, it's a fixed salary. So it's not like I can just pray a little more for people and make some more money. It doesn't work that way, or at least it shouldn't work that way. But just knowing that, we wanted, I would have loved to have had more money left over, but we wanted an affordable mortgage where we're not having to save, like put a huge chunk of money aside just to pay for a mortgage every month. So putting more down allowed us to do that. So we had a lot of good equity in our house. I've been in there for 5 years.
It's awesome.
So it worked out great. We had a little bit of money left over to do some renovations to the house, but nothing crazy.
That's sick. All right. God telling you to go anywhere around the world right now, or are you thinking just Augusta, or is there somewhere you're like, okay, this is the next like big trip God's calling us on?
Yeah. No, I think that's a bigger question, right? Is how to discern God's will in your life, and whether you're a believer or you're just trying to figure out what's the next thing for me. This is something I've just spent a lot of time really in prayer or meditation, whatever you want to call it, just trying to figure out like what's the next right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, the move to Augusta didn't make any sense, right? It's a smaller city. Rachel and I love Charlotte. All of our friends are here. I have a great church. I mean, Elevation Church is one of, if not the most well-known church in the world. Like, to think about, the stuff we were joking about last night that's not going to go on the podcast that I did before coming on staff in a church, and to think about the fact that I could do that, none of it made sense, right? If I write a pros cons list, like Charlotte's winning like every single time. So as we're thinking about what do we need to do, the decision ultimately came down to like, what is my priority? Is my priority my comfort in my job or my family? And for me, and I think, you're very similarly minded in this, is our family comes first over everything.
Yep.
And I just got to a point where I realized the way things were going here, the church was great, very understanding with us, but what was needed of me in this job and the support we had just looked too different, that I would have had to keep choosing work over my family.
Right.
So whether it is like, what is God calling you to? What do you do? Whatever. Like, the first thing is you have to figure out your priorities. And so for me right now, you're asking, the question was like, what's God calling me to next? This. Like, I'm not even there yet, so I'm not thinking about the next thing.
Packing right now.
Yeah, like packing the house. Like, I'm trying to be obedient in that, because my head does race to what I've seen of Augusta is nice, but it's not as exciting as a Charlotte. So I'm already like, well, do we want to move to, is this a jump to another city? Or is this this first house a jump to something with more property or whatever? And I'm like, having to keep those things in check, because if I keep focusing on what's after this before I'm even in the next thing, then I'm not going to be present for my family. So this whole move is to help support my wife and my daughter, and even like for myself mentally, to get me in a better place. If I'm already thinking about the next thing, then I'm selling everyone short
Makes
of
sense.
what God's really calling me to. And that's regardless of your belief. It's the same for everyone. If you're so focused on the next thing when you're not even fully present in the thing you're in, you're going to miss out on things. So I'm just trying to embrace that right now this week. Looks like going home after this and packing the house. And then once we get down there, it's unpacking and settling in, meeting the neighbors, all that kind of stuff.
Dude, yeah, that's awesome. Can you actually tell, if you're comfortable sharing?
Yeah.
I didn't know about Lyme disease.
Yeah.
And then about what God told you and your wife to do for the honey at the beach.
Yeah, the bee sting. So Lyme disease, super tricky disease.
What causes it?
It's caused by tick bites. It's like such a random thing. I mean, I grew up in the woods. I've had hundreds, if not thousands, of ticks on me. It's just one of them gets infected.
Makes me want to check my hair.
I know, right? Like, we'll give you a pat down after this. But so it's caused by a tick bite. I don't even know the percentage, and it's different in different regions. Like the Northeast, Vermont, New Hampshire, all that, it's a lot more prevalent for whatever reason.
Lyme disease.
Lyme
tick.
Yes, in ticks. So I don't know percentage, the odds of like 1 out of every 20,000 ticks carries it. I don't know how that works, but either way, Rachel got it. It looked like she had a tick bite. I have a picture of it.
When was this?
This was, I think, 7 or 8 years ago. So it looks like a normal tick bite. Usually you get a tick, you rip it off. It just leaves like a little circle wherever, like the size of a mole, right? Just like a little bite mark. Well, it had like a red, almost like a bullseye around it. If you don't know anything about Lyme disease, you just think, oh, well, maybe it wasn't a tick. Maybe it was a spider bite. Maybe it just like got infected. Like, it's not this crazy rash that keeps growing or whatever. It's just this small little red circle. And that's the sign that you have Lyme disease. So if you catch it within the first couple of weeks, they have drugs and things that can knock it out.
Really?
But once it gets, I don't remember how long. I think it's like 2 weeks or even like a month after that bite. If you don't get it treated within that time, like, you're stuck with Lyme disease.
And it's an incurable or...
Yeah, well, let's call it, for the sake of this conversation, it's an incurable disease. Now,
but you're finding that might not be true.
With that, there's so many different treatments for it, though. The problem is with Lyme disease, it's often misdiagnosed as other diseases, because what will happen is Lyme gets into your bloodstream, goes right to your brain, starts rewiring your body. So Rachel has Crohn's disease as well. That's a gastrointestinal disease. That's triggered by the Lyme. So Lyme hides itself and manifests itself in other diseases. So celiac disease, Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, Alzheimer's, like all of those things. Now, not every case of those is caused by Lyme, but Lyme can cause all of these different secondary diseases.
Did not know that.
We didn't know that for years. So for years, Rachel's getting treatment for Crohn's disease. And it's like, okay, we're doing everything. We're doing steroids.
That's not like on a blood test?
So it does show up on a blood test, but a lot of people don't know to even if they know to test for it, they haven't made the connection yet that Lyme causes those things. It's Lyme is a separate thing and this. So there's just not a lot of science around it right now. So that's kind of the unfortunate part, is like there hasn't been enough research and development to be able to figure this out.
How many people are there with Lyme disease? You have any idea?
I don't know. We can throw a little caption bubble right here once you do some research after. I don't know. But it's definitely, as there's more science being done on this, the cases of Lyme are going up, and it's not that more people are getting it, it's more people are being diagnosed who have other things. So people who are getting treatment for different things. So the way it kind of worked was when Rachel and I started dating, I mean, she was really sick with Crohn's disease. She was on a steroid for it. It wasn't working, so we made a switch to a more holistic approach, vitamins, supplements, diet-based. She got really healthy with that, like tremendously, like was able to see improvements in her intestines when they were scoping, her energy levels, just like all of this. No, it's slow. Anything holistic, people think like a lot of times it doesn't work. It just takes time.
Sure.
Because it's your body flushing all this stuff out. So she was doing that for like 2 years, and then she got pregnant. And this is really cool. A lot of times, most of the time when people have an autoimmune disorder, when they get pregnant, they feel amazing, because an autoimmune disorder is your body fighting itself. So when you get pregnant, your body, there's like, you're growing a baby in you, so your body stops fighting. So a lot of times when people have an autoimmune disorder, they have a really healthy pregnancy, but then there's a big crash after the baby comes.
Yeah, makes sense.
So she had a great pregnancy, super healthy, like feeling awesome. Riley Grace was born. She was super healthy baby. And we kind of knew, we're like bracing, like, okay, there could be a big crash in her health any day now. Like a month, maybe a month and a half after our daughter was born, Rachel's health started to tank. With Crohn's, usually a flare lasts for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and it just looks like it zaps all of her energy. Maybe she's nauseous, really upset stomach, a lot of pain, and then it kind of goes away. Usually we can trigger that to like, wow, we ate some pizza that we shouldn't have, or like, like picked up some ice cream and we knew it wasn't the right thing to do. Well, she gets sick and just doesn't get better. So it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And it got to the point where she was like having a hard time, getting from the couch to the bed. And like, I'm having to help her, out of bed to get out to the couch, and I'm leaving for work, and, our daughter is there, and Rachel just has no energy, and I got to go to work and figure out how to help. So luckily her parents came up a lot to help out, but she just had nothing to give.
All right.
So that was really tough. So we started looking at, okay, we go to her doctor. They are like, hey, this is not Crohn's. This is Lyme. This is Lyme flaring up. And this is really the first time that they said like, hey, this is the Lyme acting up. And so we started doing research, and dude, it's overwhelming.
Did you say there's like 100 different treatment options or
There's
something?
so many different treatment options. The Lyme quote unquote specialists are just that. They're specialists. So a lot of insurances won't cover it. So it's like hundreds, if not thousands of dollars out of pocket for these treatment plans. If you go to a hospital, they don't really treat Lyme because they don't understand it. So they would just put her on a steroid, which just really masks and hides the pain. A lot of people say, well, do red light sauna treatments and do this diet or this protocol. But there's just like, none of them are kind of talking together. Like, there's just no set path on what to do for it. You get cancer, you get chemo. Like everyone's pretty much in alignment on that for that kind of treatment. With Lyme, there's just no set thing. So we're praying, and at this point, I'm just like, man, I don't know. I'm gonna have to quit my job to stay home to help, but I don't know how we're gonna make money. Maybe we have to move in with my parents. Maybe we have to move in with her parents. Like we were desperate. Like she was just so sick. So as we're talking and praying, God really led us to this thing called bee venom therapy. And it was crazy. When we first heard of it, we thought it was crazy. We're like, there's no way we're going to do this. And then like 4 or 5 other people confirmed this. And it's kind of the thing of like what we were talking about earlier. What do you do when you're not sure what's next? It's like, well, what are your priorities? And so we started to hear other people bring this to us. And we're like, okay, enough people have told us this now that, and again, with our faith, like we prayed about it. We believe in God. So we felt like this was the thing he was calling us to. But what you do is...
So it's called bee venom.
Bee venom therapy. You take a honeybee, because there's something about the honeybee, the venom that they have, and she gets stung like up and down her spine. You do it 3 days a week. Start with 1 sting, and then every 2 weeks you add a sting till you get to 10 stings. So 3 days a week, she gets stung 10 times up and down her spine. And the way that works is you keep doing that. The venom directly combats the Lyme disease, like the bacteria. It breaks the cell walls down, and then the day after she stings, she does like heavy detox, like takes a lot of charcoal, a lot of baths, sauna treatment to flush all those toxins out, because when the Lyme cell breaks down and all that toxins in the body, so you got to flush all that out. And you keep doing that until the symptoms go away.
Wow.
So
how long have you been doing this?
We just hit 1 year. June 7th was 1 year. And to see her, like, a lot of times friends and family are like, hey, are you going to keep doing this? Is it really working? If you look at her week over week, you can't tell difference. But when we look at her from this time last year, like she's night and day different. I mean, she's up moving around the house. She's taking photo shoots with clients now. Like she's able to like do the dishes or take care of our daughter. Like the basic foundation of life of just like getting up, making coffee, making food for her and my daughter, like, and getting them to bed until I get home from work, like all that kind of stuff she can do and function. Now, she's not able to work out. Like if we travel, she's pretty drained and all that. But this time last year, I mean, she couldn't get off the couch.
Right.
So it's definitely working.
She gets 30 bee stings a week for the last year, and that's 52. So 1,500 bee stings she's had in the last year.
I'm not going to trust your math on that, but yeah.
I was just trying, like, I simply do math, but yeah, whatever.
Someone fact check us later.
But that's amazing. So your wife has been stung by bees. over 1,500 times.
Dude, she's a beast, man. I'll do like, so there's a lot of science with the bee stings that if you have joint inflammation or pain, it can help with that. So I have a lot of knee pain. So I'll sting my knee. Maybe, I mean, I did it for a little while. Like I would do 2 stings once a week. And dude, it freaking hurts. Like I'm there. So I would, you know, she's laying down and I would do all the stings on her back. And she's just like clutching her pillow and has worship music going. And it's just like praying. I sting my knee 2 times, maybe once a week. And I like sting and I get up and I'm running around the house, like cussing, like punching things. I'm like sweating. I'm like, this is terrible. This sucks. I'm like, you don't understand. Back hurts, but the knee is way worse. Like, so we believe in healing, right? But we also believe we live for something more than this earth.
Absolutely.
Heaven is going to be this perfect eternity. And so every time we sting, our prayer is, God, we don't know when you're going to heal her. And it's not that we don't have the faith that you will heal her, but we just don't know when.
Sure.
And we trust you in it. We're not going to lose faith. So our prayer is every day is just one day closer to healing. That healing may not come in this lifetime. And that's a brutal reality that we have to live with. But that's where things like moving to Augusta when it doesn't make sense become a little easier when we know, hey, this is something that God's trusted us with. Because not everyone who could go through this would keep their faith. When you know that God can heal miraculously like that, and he doesn't, it doesn't make sense to us, and it won't. And so to be able to hold on to faith like that, like we thank him that he trusts us with this. We ask him to take it away. We don't want it, you know?
Right.
As a husband, to see my wife in that much pain, that sucks. But I'm also like, man, I see that girl, and she's amazing. So no wonder why he trusts her with this. Because if I had this, I would be dead by now. I would have given up the stings and my body would just fall apart. Like, there's no way I could do that. Or if I did it, I wouldn't be able to praise God the way that she does.
Has your daughter seen it done?
Yeah, so that's kind of the trippy part is...
Because how old's your daughter?
Riley Grace is 21 months. And I only share that because, like...
You heard me ask her last night.
Under 2 years, I always used to make fun of people for saying that. But when they're under the 2-year mark, every month really does make a difference. So even like if I were just to say 1.5 years, she's so much more alert.
Yeah.
So what's been weird...
9,000 hours.
I know, like 9,000 hours and 35,000 blinks, whatever. So, but no, what's been crazy is she's always been there with us in the room, but like we could throw a show on TV and that's fine. As she's getting older, every month, she's like more alert and aware. And we're not trying to hide it from her, but what's been trippy for me as a dad is like, is she going to associate like dad causing mom pain? Because there's times where like she gets upset. Now, most of the time she's fine. We just tell her, hey, like mommy's getting a treatment. She's going to be fine. After she gets stung, comes over, give mom a hug. But I'm like, I'm the one doing it. So like her brain, I'm just hoping that doesn't like, we want her to be a part of it. I just don't want her to have like the negative impact. So I don't know. It may not be the right thing to have her in the room, but we just feel like we want her to be a part of this too.
So that's, yeah. Oh man. So when Sydney had miscarriage last year, Isla woke up in the middle of the night during the miscarriage and came and like laid down with Sydney. And it was like one of those things where Isla's soul just knew like she had to be there. So I understand that. So it's a trip.
We have this one really beautiful picture where Riley Grace one day, Rachel's just having a really tough day. Like some days it hits harder than others. Some days she can just be there and kind of grin and bear it. Other days she's, crying and it's clearly emotional. So this one day Riley Grace came over and just hugged her. And Rachel like sits in a chair and has pillows. So just like this, like hunched over. Riley Grace just comes in and just hugs her. So I took a picture of that and we sent it to Rachel's sister who does some graphic design and she turned it into like this beautiful, like almost like animated picture.
Oh, wow.
And it's just so cool to see, like you can see like the tears like rolling down Rachel's face, but like it's just like her.
I want to see that picture.
Yeah. I'll show it to you. It's really just like, it's crazy.
So you've been married how long?
July will be 4 years.
4 years.
4 years. But with COVID, like we got married right before COVID. So like it kind of feels like we've been married a lot longer because we had so much time, just the two of us, which was awesome. Luckily, we kind of got spoiled during that season. We had a house and no kid. So I know that time was terrible for a lot of people, but for us, it was awesome.
It was a good time. That was a fun wedding. I remember that whole, you couldn't get the bartender or whatever, liquor license.
Yeah, so, okay, this, again, funny Drew story here. So leading up to our wedding, again, I hadn't drank for 6 years. Rachel doesn't. I mean, Rachel's a saint, you know.
She's literally like an angel.
Yeah, like so she would drink, but it's not like anything. So leading up,
I keep trying to get her.
I know.
I'm sorry.
we keep trying to corrupt her. She's just too pure. But leading up to the wedding, we just weren't sure if we were gonna have alcohol at the wedding or not. So then it was like last minute. We're like, well, I don't know. Let's just do it. Let's let people have some fun, whatever, you know. Or Drew's coming. Drew is coming to the wedding, so
I don't have to go to the car every 30 minutes.
yeah, I know. Drew, where's Drew again? Oh, he's just checking his car, checking the tire pressure again. So yeah, we did it, and you were awesome. You hooked us up with a lot of stuff for the wedding, but the thing we didn't think about was like needing someone to serve the alcohol, because it was like the week and a half before the wedding. So we get there, we have all of this liquor or like beer and stuff at the wedding ready to be served at the reception, and the coordinator comes up and is like, "Hey, do you have a licensed bartender?" We're like, "No." Yeah, I don't.
So like on the way to your wedding, right? You're like getting a phone call.
I'm like calling Drew. I'm like, "Hey, do you have your bartending license?" And luckily, our coordinator knew. We got married in what was it, Greensboro. Our coordinator knew one person in Greensboro who happened to be a bartender who was off that day, so we paid them to come in.
Oh, that's true.
So I don't know if that was like God's provision to have a bartender show up at our wedding, but it worked out and it was a blast.
Last thing I want to finish up with you, marriage, right? So
Yeah.
you've been married 4 years. I always tell my wife, like, my goal is to be married to her for like 75 years. Like,
You didn't call it quits?
yeah,
I if we make it 75 years, I think we can try some other people out. But
just, I guess it's more so like, that'd be a long time to live too.
Yep.
And so
well, you also got married when you were 8, so
we were young. 19, thank you very much.
did your parents have to sign off for you to get married? You just think
My parents tried not to get us to let us get married, but it turned out great. Any advice that you would give somebody on just like, how do you make a great marriage?
yeah, I mean, that's easy. Yeah, it's communication. Now everyone says that.
Because they're like wildly in love with each other. It's so adorable.
Honestly, it really
It's like puppy dog love together.
We are adorable. We get told
He's not adorable. She's adorable. And he's
that's up for it. I just participate. But no, we love each other a lot, and that a lot of that comes from the motivation that we both have coming into marriage. Is for my side of the family, this is the only like fully faith-based marriage that I've seen, and so there's just a lot of tension in marriages and divorces and things like that I saw growing up, that I just knew I really didn't want to have that carried on. And then for Rachel as well, she comes from kind of the opposite, where everyone in her family is pastors or worship leaders, or just like, again, how we got married, I don't know, but so she had a lot of great role models. So bringing that in, we're like, okay, here's the things we don't want. Here's the things we do want. How do we make this work? And then it helped with the role I'm in, being a pastor, that I'm meeting with couples constantly and seeing how easily you go from excited to get married and then 1 month in, you hate each other. And I'm like, well, what happened? Oh, well, we stopped talking to each other. We stormed off and got angry. So for us, it's just getting consistent communication. So we share this thing. There's like this 4 questions that we send people. It's like called a couples check-in, and I tell them to do it weekly. The goal of this is not that those 4 questions are awesome. The goal of this is teaching the weekly communication. So Rachel and I got in a habit. We did that every single week while we were dating, engaged, and a little bit while we were married, that now we can just have those questions throughout the week. So if we see someone's off, we can just call it out.
But
And
what are the 4 questions?
we're able to receive it. So it's, here, I'll read it to you in order, just because the order kind of matters a little bit here. But so the 4 questions are, and you let each person go fully before responding. So they're going to...
Communication and shutting up.
Yeah, it's it. Part of communication is learning when to be quiet. But the 4 questions are, talk about a feeling you've had during the week. And these don't have to be about the relationship, but talk about a feeling you've had during the week. Own something that you've done within the relationship during the week that you believe was wrong. Tell something you've appreciated, and talk about a need that you have. So the feeling one, that's tough for me as a guy. I'm like sad, happy, I don't know, like what. So it taught me how to expand on those things. Something you own, it's forcing you to apologize. So like, even if it's not the big thing, you still have to apologize for something, because we all, like,
Humility.
yeah, you've been married long enough to know too, like, you're going to mess up at least once a week. So own that, right? Even if it's like, well, I saw that Sydney was putting the kids to bed and I could have cleaned up the dishes, but I pretended to be on a work call on my phone. It's like, well, own that. Later on in the week, be like, hey, I should have helped with the dishes the other night and I didn't. It doesn't have to be big. So that's biggest advice I can give for marriage is learn consistent communication that's carved out. You're not rushing it. You know, it's turning the TV off after the kids go to bed, or picking a day of the week to do this. Go out on a date, grab coffee, whatever. Just make it consistent.
Yeah. So thanks for talking.
Yeah, dude. Thanks for having me. Treat me to lunch. Well, making me paid. That day is that.
Yeah, that worked out kind of weird. I don't know how that happened. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Again, 1-star review.
1-star review only. First, you last.
That's right.